Hi, Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So subscribe and hit that bell icon. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing, is there a difference between sexual attraction and sexual desire? Or is it exactly the same thing? Let's dive into asexual perspectives on what different asexuals think about this topic. Don't forget, Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month is this month, and it's to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it, just like this book does. So let's get tucked in to today's session. So, do you believe sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same thing or different? I asked Cassidy. I imagine they're different to sexual people. Like, finding someone sexy and wanting to have sex with them are two different things. I don't particularly have either. Sometimes I do want to touch, though. Nothing sexual. I just want to pet them. So, yes, there's sensual and there's sexual. Sensual attractions when you want to touch someone, because you just like the feel of their skin. That's sensual. So that's what they're kind of talking about when they're petting. It being sensual rather than sexual. But people do get confused about that. A lot of sexual people would take sensual attraction, like touching, to mean that it's sexual. But sensual is different to sexual. But both of them can be intertwined, actually. Anyway, let's go to Philippa Duke's story. Do you think sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same or different? Thanks for the thumbs up, by the way. Lots of love. I don't understand either, as I can't relate to them. So I can't really differentiate them. If you put two spiders in front of me, I know they are spiders, but I couldn't tell you about them or their differences. I think that's really good that Philippa has done an analogy of the difference between sexual desire and sexual attraction. The fact that, it's like not being able to tell the difference between different spiders. I love that. Liam, hi, beautiful Sandra. Oh, hello, Liam. Nice to see you as always. So yeah, I love that because spiders can be a bit creepy, and if you're sex repulsed, I guess then you could get a bit creeped out by sex, couldn't you? And sexual attraction, and even sexual desire. So, what are these differences for Zoe? Is there any differences between sexual attraction and sexual desire? Or are they the same thing? So, from Zoe's point of view, from their own experience, I am attracted to the person on the inside, their mindset and all that it entails, not their physical body or appearance. I suppose if someone feels sexual desire, the urge could be satisfied with just about anyone, not necessarily someone they are attracted to as a person, as evidenced by the number of one-night stands and bar hookups that are so regretted the next morning. Example, I don't know what I saw in him, her, but I was horny / drunk, so it happened. So yeah, I know from my own knowledge that sexual attraction and sexual desire are different. So basically, sexual desire is a desire for sex in and of itself, which is basically what Zoe's saying. Without really caring about the person, because they're just so needing of sex. And it's sexual desire, as in they desire the sex itself. Whereas sexual attraction is when you're attracted to a person sexually, a specific person or people. That is how I define the difference. But you'll notice in articles written about sexuality, specifically asexuality, they mention a lot of the time that asexuals don't have any sexual desire. And sometimes they leave out the fact that asexuality is based on a lack of sexual attraction. So I think some articles could be slightly inaccurate or slightly misleading. So I think it's really interesting to pay attention to that. Like, how many asexual articles have you read? And how many of the ones that you've read say that asexuals don't have any sexual desire, whereas the others say asexual is based on a lack of sexual attraction? Watch out for that. Have a read and see what you think. Right. So, this is Geeks Vanderpool's story. Do you believe sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same thing or different? Most people will only feel sexual desire for people they find sexually attractive. So this is the other side of the coin. You could argue that, yes, you're not going to find someone sexually attractive unless you're not going to desire sex with someone who's not sexually attractive to you. But we have just heard in another story that sexual desire is based on the desire for the sex itself. So when someone's drunk or not really thinking straight, then they could have sex with someone that they're saying they're not sexually attracted to. But were they sexually attracted to them? Because some people might just have some horribleness about them where if they were with someone who was, for example, not stereotypically beautiful, so maybe they're bigger in body mass, maybe they don't have the latest makeup on, maybe they're not stick thin and stuff like that, then they wake up and then they realize, and then they say, oh, I wasn't attracted to them, I can't believe I was with that person, but really they were sexually attracted, but they don't want to admit it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think this is a very interesting thing. So to carry on with Geeks Vanderpool story, so I'll go back over that a little bit again. Most people will only feel sexual desire for people they find sexually attractive. In that sense, they are the same. On the other hand, there are people who have very strong sexual desire and who would satisfy that desire with whomever is available, regardless of that person's degree of sexual attraction. In that sense, they are different. So, yes, this person's saying about both of them. So, it's very interesting because I get asked all the time on dating apps, like, why don't you like sex? And I'm like, because I'm asexual and I don't experience sexual attraction. I put in my bio that I'm asexual. Like, oh, why don't you like sex? Did something happen? Or why don't you like sex? You know, and it's like, I just get fed up of explaining to people why I don't like sex. And it's like, I don't experience sexual attraction. I don't have a need, urge, or want for sex. I don't have those feelings. And it's like bashing my head against a brick wall. A lot of the time, it's absolutely pointless continuing to talk to these people because they're asking you questions like that on dating apps and they don't barely know you. And their mind is all geared towards, oh, I didn't realize she didn't like sex, or why doesn't she like it? You know what I mean? It's like, why just like even bother with these conversations, because they're just after sex and I can't be doing with them, quite frank. I'm like, just move on if you want sex and I don't. Stop wasting my time. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of these people, they don't bother to read my bio. They should read my bio. Like one guy's like, oh, so where do you live then? I'm like, Exeter, but it says this in my bio. And then he stopped talking to me after that. I thought, yeah, because you've actually seen I'm asexual and don't like sex. Why don't you just read that in the first place? Molly's story. Do you believe sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same or different? Different. Sexual attraction determines if someone is asexual mostly, though lack of sexual desire can also make one asexual, I think, which is true, that people who lack sexual desire and then they have no desire for sex whatsoever would usually be asexual too. So asexuality is based on lack of sexual attraction and or little to no interest in sexual activities, basically, which is where the no sexual desire comes in, or lack thereof sexual desire as well. Lack thereof of it, right? Does that make sense? So, Jamie James's story. Do you believe sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same thing or different? Sexual attraction and desire are two different things. Attractive is to look at something, desire is to want something. You can look at a banana and like the look of it without wanting to eat one. After all, you may not be hungry. I love Jamie James's analogy, especially because most people, when they talk about bananas, they really liken it in a sexual way to the male anatomy. So I find it quite funny they're using that as an analogy to say they wouldn't like to eat it, but they're using it in terms of sex. It's funny. So yeah, attraction is basically you're attracted to someone, and desire is wanting to do something. So I do agree, because sexual attraction is being attracted to a person sexually, whereas the desire is wanting to do their sex. But for a lot of asexuals, if they do want sex, it's not usually they want it with a specific person, if you know what I mean. So, Fiora's story. Are sexual attraction and sexual desire the same thing or different? Yes, in the sense that sexual desire means a desire for partnered sex. Some people also use the term sexual desire to refer to sex drive, but many aces do have sex drives. However, they don't feel the need for partnered sex. This is debatable, isn't it? Like, do many asexuals have sex drives? So I do understand what she's saying, that sexual desire means a desire for partnered sex. And basically that's what sexual attraction is. Sexual attraction is a need, urge, and want for partnered sexual intercourse. Like, it's an innate desire and need. Right? So that's what sexual attraction means. So if you're sexually attracted to someone, you look at someone and go, oh, I got a real need, urge, or want to have sex with that person, like now, basically. And sexual desire is a desire and need for sex. So I'm guessing, but I agree with what that person's saying in that way. They are the same. Some people also use the term sexual desire to refer to sex drive. So yeah, that's why, for me personally, I have high levels of arousal, but I never have a sex drive because I don't have a drive for sex itself. So it's very interesting that this person believes that a lot of asexuals have sex drives. I personally have seen only a few people say they have sex drives, as in a drive for the sex itself, but it isn't aimed at anyone. So yeah. And the whole point is that if asexuals do get aroused or do get a drive for sex, it's usually not aimed at having it with anyone specific. It's usually a drive for sex itself without anyone being involved, or arousal can make the person feel aroused with themselves. But it's always a difficult one, the sex drive thing, I think, with asexuals, because sexual attraction is a need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. But asexuality is also covers people that have little to no interest in sexual activities, which would be the sexual desire. So you've got some asexuals that are asexual because they really don't have a drive for sex whatsoever. And then you've got other asexuals that just lack sexual attraction, but some of those may partake in sex. So it's kind of like very confusing sometimes. There's so many different types of asexuals. So David's story, do you believe that sexual attraction and desire are the same thing or different? I wouldn't say they're the same, but in many cases, one would lead to another. Attraction is more subjective, conscious, and desire is more instinctual or instinctive, biological. I think it's really interesting. I think that people who do experience strong sexual desire, it's still very conscious in them, because that's why there's all these guys all over the dating apps who are consciously aware that they're horny and want sex, and so that's why they're hooking up. So I know what David is saying, that desire is more instinctive, biological, that it kind of like comes up within you. But when he's talking about attraction being subjective and conscious, I think that covers all the different attractions. But I think if you're sexually attracted to someone, you can't help that. If you're a sexual person, you look at the person and you think, I want sex with that person. That's the whole point of sexual attraction in comparison to other attractions. So I'm a little bit like slightly indifferent to this, because I do believe that sexual desire is, although it's, you could say it's instinctive and biological, you could say that about sexual attraction as well, because sexual attraction is a need, urge, want for partner sexual intercourse. It's instant. It's not something people have to really think about. It's something they just do. Whereas asexuals, for example, someone like me who's a pure asexual, doesn't experience any sexual attraction. I don't have those feelings at all. I don't have sexual desire and I don't have a sexual attraction. I do, however, get arousal levels to be high sometimes, but it's usually all to do with kissing or thinking about kissing. That's mostly what it's over, you know? I love kissing. I really love kissing. I'm one of the few asexuals that's a hyper kisser. I'm one of the few people in the world that's a hyper kisser, actually. There's not many people that are hyper romantic and hyper kisser, whatever sexuality they are. It's not really normal, but hey ho, when have I ever been normal? I haven't. So there we go. Jen Mullen's story. Do you believe that sexual attraction and sexual desire are the same thing or different? I think they're different. I think there are cases when asexuals who are sex positive or neutral and who have a partner who wants to have sex may experience sexual desire. They might not be attracted to that person, but they could still desire to have sex with that partner. So, yes, for me personally, I believe and kind of have a knowing that some asexuals might have sex with their partner and they might say they want it, but that want is more of a want to be close to that person and do something physical with them, like an activity, rather than actually want for the sex. So when they say, oh, when asexuals will say, oh yeah, I do want sex sometimes, I feel it's more to do with the fact, you know, if they're a pure asexual, for example, which they probably want sex less, or but say they're just talking and they say they want sex. I think asexuals in general who say they want sex, I think if they thought about it, this is not true for every asexual, but I think in the instances, especially if it is a pure asexual who doesn't experience any sexual attraction, if they are thinking about having sex and thinking, oh yeah, I'd want to have that with my partner, they ask me and yeah, I want to have it tonight with them, I think it's more of a case of they want to do that with that specific person as an activity to do and as part of the relationship rather than an innate need and want for it. So I don't think they want it like a heterosexual, for example, would, or a sexual person. A sexual person has an innate want and need and desire from it. Like they can't help but need that thing. Whereas I think with asexuals, they can take it or leave it. Even the ones that like it as an activity to do, I think the majority, not if they're on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, like demisexual, grey asexual, but I think that if they're a pure asexual, for example, they don't have that innate need or desire or want. And when they say they want to do it, I think it's more of a want to do that thing with the specific partner rather than doing the sex itself. It's not a want for the sex, it's a want to be consensual and have that experience with that person, if that makes sense. That's what I think, because in general, asexuals don't get the need, urge, or want for partner sexual intercourse, which is what sexual attraction is. So if an asexual then says, then I want it, I think it's more of a case they want to do that thing with the person they're with because they're in a relationship. They get some benefits out of the sex and they are okay to do that. But they don't have this innate want, as in, I really want to do that for the sake of sex itself, which is very distinct, different. Sexuals have a need and want and urge for the sex itself. And if they're sexually attracted to a person, then the sexual desire is better for them because they are desiring sex with someone they're sexually attracted to. So it goes together as a match. Whereas asexual person, I think if they want sex, it's more of a, I want to do an activity with my partner enjoys that, I'm fine about doing that. I want to have that experience with them rather than, oh, I really want the sex. Does that make sense? And sexual desire is a desire for sex in and of itself, which I do know some asexuals do get. But it's like, if they have that, it's like, it's not aimed at anyone. It's like, oh, I have this sex drive, but it's not going anywhere. And I don't find anyone attractive around me in terms of sexual attraction. They might like the aesthetic look of someone. So therefore they don't feel like they want to have sex with a specific person because they don't have a drive for the sex itself with a specific person. It's for the sex in itself of itself, if that makes sense. So they don't look at a person and think, I want sex with that person because they're not sexually attracted to anyone, but they still have like this drive within them because they feel horny, basically. And they have this drive for sex, but it's not aimed at anyone. So arousal is another thing. Arousal is a feeling in your genitalia that doesn't have to be linked to sexual attraction or sexual desire. I can get aroused and I have zero sexual desire and zero sexual attraction. I find it odd myself. I find it very weird. Like, how can someone have arousal levels and get aroused without wanting sex? Logically doesn't really make sense, but it does to me because I'm actually in the body of the person that experiences that. But it's weird. It's like I can kiss for hours and I just don't ever get an urge or want or need for sex. I don't get those feelings. I get arousal, or sometimes I just get an excited feeling, like an excitement feeling when you're like opening a birthday present that you've wanted for like 8 months or something and you want to burst out and shout, oh my God, I'm so ecstatic. That type of excitement, which isn't even arousal as such, it's just pure excitement, like a little kid. Like I'm kissing and I'm so excited and I'm elated. Ah, that type of thing. The arousal is more of a genitalia thing, but even that's not aimed at anyone. It's just kind of like as an energy of itself and on its own, Sometimes it makes me want to do stuff to myself, but not with other people, which I guess is the same as some people who are asexual experience sexual desire, but they actually desire the sex itself, but it's not aimed at anyone. I don't desire the sex. I just sometimes have arousal and sometimes I want to relieve it myself because it gets quite intense sometimes, but it's usually for kissing. I'm thinking about kissing. If I haven't kissed for quite a while, it can get quite intense. I'm like, I really want to kiss right now. And it doesn't help if I watch romantic movies and stuff like that because it sets it off a lot of the time. I'm like, where's the guy to kiss? Where's my kissing? But yeah. So yeah, every asexual's different, we're all beautifully different. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives book. If you haven't already got a copy, why not? This book talks all about asexuality, love, life, and sex from an asexual point of view, and pretty much answers any question that you can think of when you're new to asexuality, or if you're more advanced but still discovering about the asexual spectrum. And it shows asexuality in real life context rather than just giving textbook definitions of it. So it's a really insightful, informative book. And it was the original Asexual Perspectives book from 2017. There's some other books that have since cropped up with similar titles to mine, but this is the original one. So yes, original is always the best, I think. So 47 asexual stories in this, including my own. Go and grab a copy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, Blackwell's, Walmart, wherever a good bookshop is, and go and grab it because it'll be worth it. And yes, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Thanks, Liam, for being in chat tonight. Thanks to everyone else for being here. I'll see you soon in the next video live stream. Lots of love. Take care. Bye. Bye.